Good evening, everyone. I'm Nathan Johns,
Then I'm Russ Fritz.
and welcome.
So,
Join us while
switching grooves. What's up,
we switched
Nathan?
it up this week. I like that.
Yeah, you
I
like
liked it a
that?
little bit. That was kind of fun.
Switching grooves, baby. That's how we do it.
That was definitely fun. So, how are you,
oh,
Russ?
not too bad. I've kind of got tired of the background, so I just switched things up behind me here. So I'm working on a.
Eventually, I'll get that switched over for me.
I'm working on a new studio in one of the spare rooms in the house. So the wall colors will eventually change and everything else. But this is just the start of it. Got some memorabilia we've been collecting over the
We got to
last.
get you a Switching Grooves artwork on the wall.
I'm looking into that. I'd like to get maybe even a little monitor behind me so we could play some sponsors and some slideshows for sponsors, stuff like that. But it's all in time. Takes a little bit of time and a lot of bit of money.
Oh yeah.
But
So
the dirt racing, I'm gonna go ahead and skip for tonight because, like I said, it's been a couple of weeks. I'm sure everybody knows all about it anyway. So I just had some issues last week with the program we use not updating to fit the updates on the Windows computers. So that kind of slowed me down. So I'm not going to worry about that. I'm sure everybody's heard all about it. So we'll get right into the Daytona Speed Week and Daytona 500.
well, we're gonna start off with one of the more heartwarming stories. We're gonna call it. Okay, I wouldn't say that. We'll start a little before that. Uh, as everybody's probably seen, NASCAR announced that they did I wouldn't say it's legacy drivers, but world class drivers. That's what it was. World class drivers, if they didn't qualify for the Daytona 500 on speed or through the duels, they were automatically guaranteed a spot at the back of the field, creating a 41st position. And there was a little bit more light on that
But
brought to
was
light over the course of the week.
wasn't that just one legacy provisional though?
That's what I was about to get to. Is apparently with Helio Castroneves, the four-time IndyCar driver, only one spot is available, and it's the first person to register gets that spot. There is no other spot. There's whoever the first person to announce that they want to proclaim they want it, they get it. So, for example, Jimmy Johnson and Martin Truex Jr. didn't get the opportunity to do it because Helio Castroneves had already announced he's going to do it. So it's a little shady. Fortunately, they both made it on speed, but that's kind of a NASCAR picking and choosing, and they would have put themselves in a really bad spot had those two not made it. Fortunately, they made it, but
Well,
I definitely think that should have been a little differently.
according to a statement from Jimmy Johnson, driver of the '84 and majority owner now of Legacy Motor Club, he said that he actually didn't get his application in time or in on time, so that's why he was denied anyways. That's
They
just
didn't
what I heard.
announce. From what I understand, they missed that in the fine print. That's what I got from that.
Oh, okay.
And Tricon Garage with Martin Truex Jr. didn't make the announcement until after it had already been announced that Helio Castroneves was entering. So it wouldn't have Trackhouse kind of knew about it, and they put their hat in the ring before anybody else could even get the chance to, which is a little shady, but at the same time, first come, first serve, I guess. But
They took advantage of a loop.
That was a little shady.
They
But
took advantage of something. And
one of the bigger stories that came out, other than Helio having to use the world class provisional, was when it came to the duels. Obviously, Truex and Johnson qualified in on speed, and Castroneves obviously had to start at the rear because he didn't make it through the duels. But making it in through the duels, Justin Allgaier and Junior Motorsports, which I will say they definitely surprised me over the course of the weekend. They were pretty decent in speed. They weren't great when it came to qualifying, They qualified kind of mediocre, I would think, but they managed to beat Justin Haley to the line in the duels. I believe it was Duel 2, which the duels itself I thought were way more chaotic than they used to be. Although I do kind of blame that on the commentators. Is prior to the race there was chat of you know you don't really have to save your car for Sunday anymore. These cars can take a beating. Well, sure enough, they took a beating, which is awfully convenient. They say that prior to the duels, and all of a sudden it's an absolute demo derby. Um, I
It
would
was a
like to
mess.
I definitely want to voice my opinion on Castor Nevis getting into the Daytona 500 on a provisional.
Go for it.
I really do not think he should have deserved that spot whatsoever. And the only reason I'm going to say that is if anybody goes back and watches the duels, who has watched NASCAR in the past, I want you to tell me what happens when you straddle the apron in a NASCAR video game, in real life. What happens when these cars get on the apron at 180 miles an hour? What's the first thing that happens? You lose control. You add in the fact that he had already been in an accident and is still carrying a pretty significant amount of speed when he entered turn 3. And it looked like Chandler Smith, not 30 seconds prior, hitting the wall at a pretty significant angle and then wondered why the car was jumped. If you had even remotely driven a stock car before or even knew how these cars worked, first thing you would do is not try to straddle the apron with these new next gen cars. That is the dumbest thing I have ever seen even a rookie do. And I don't think I've seen a rookie do that yet. He's the first driver who's supposedly world class didn't make such a boneheaded move like that. I was a little frustrated that he got in essentially scot free because he's a
And
Indy 500 winner.
I've got to agree with you, man. I I'm trying to think of how to say
He's a
it
great
nicely.
driver. Don't get me wrong.
Yes,
But he does
he's
not belong in stock car racing ever.
he is a great IndyCar racer. Okay, he is an awesome driver when it comes to that. But he has never raced in NASCAR before, and to be able to just get a provisional and get in without even having to try really is not fair to guys like our past champions like Jimmy Johnson. Even though I'm not a big fan of Jimmy Johnson, that's not fair to him being a past champion 7 times over, and Martin Truex Jr. being at least a one-time champion. Guys like that deserve it more than an outsider of the sport. You didn't see IndyCar let Kyle Larson in for free.
Nope.
He had to earn it.
The structures, yes. And to NASCAR's credit, they made him run the ARCA race, now, which I'll get to that in a second. But I don't think that's the only thing. Well, they did that with SVG last year, and his race actually turned out pretty decent. We'll get to the ARCA race here in a second because that one, I feel like that alone should have disqualified Castor Nevis. But, so Castor Nevis wrecks in the duels. Algara makes it in. We get to the Truck Series race, and we're going to cover this a little later on. The inconsistencies of NASCAR that are very controversial. We get all the way through the Truck Series race. Great race. But there's a wreck going down the backstretch. NASCAR immediately throws a yellow flag. Immediately. Okay. So at least, the safety workers can get to the cars quickly. Then we get the ARCA race, which I like to call that an Orgadonor 250 because that was the biggest, for lack of a better term, shit show I have ever seen. I think they had more cautions than a Bristol race because I don't think they got 2 full laps in before they crashed. Where they had what? Cletus McFarland. They had obviously they had Castor Nevis, who the requirement was he had to run the ARCA race to be able to run the Cup race, which for SVG, he had to run the ARCA race to run the Xfinity Series, and I feel like that would have been way better off for Castroneves because he did not belong out there. So Castroneves makes it through the entire race somehow, gets wrecked after the checkered flag by an idiot without a radio, which first red flag right there. If you see the cars in front of you stopping and you don't stop, like the yellow, I'm pretty sure the yellow lights come on after they take the checkered flag. Once you cross the line, caution lights come on to slow down. They were all the way to turn one, and I forget the guy's name. Just drove headlong off into turn one and essentially destroyed Castroneves' car after the race, which there's no excuse for that. There will never be an excuse for that. If the cars in front of you are stopping, 9 times out of 10, you want to stop because there was a flag. You had to see the flag. You had to see the lights, and you see the cars stopping. There is no excuse for blowing through turn one when everybody's stopping and just slamming into someone just because you don't have a radio. I call that shenanigans in a nice term. I can try to use some more choice words, but that's bad. So, obviously, all kinds of crashes in the ARCA race. Xfinity race. I think that was a pretty decent race. Unfortunately, Austin Hill, who dominates Daytona every year, had a axle seal issue, which is probably the first time I've ever heard of RCR having that extent of mechanical issue that early in the season. Usually they absolutely dominate Daytona, and I was very surprised that Austin Hill, had no clue he was leaking fluid. They didn't say anything to him, which was kind of odd. Yeah, they obviously didn't want to worry him, but the fact that he didn't know what was going on after the fact when they gave him the interview is a little concerning that, you didn't know there was anything wrong with the car, and then all of a sudden, you come to the interview and they're still trying to diagnose it. I don't think you were paying attention very much when you saw the photos. Either that or somebody's really good at hiding this from you.
Didn't you look at your gauges?
Well, no, it was a rear axle seal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was leaking fluid from the rear end, which
Sorry.
the only reason that we knew about that is because CW, which I'm going to get to that in a second, the CW actually showed an angle of him come to his pit stop where the right rear tire, I guess it's right rear tire, was shiny, like somebody had polished it. But the right rear tire was shiny, but the right front looked like it had been going around the track. That alone should have been a red flag to somebody to tell him, hey, pull in, we'll get this fixed, go from there. They tried to essentially run it out and, see if it was going to last in stage 2, I think, almost end of stage 2. So I'm a little concerned that nobody thought to tell him, hey, you have an issue, take us to the garage, we'll get it fixed, go from there. But once again, get to the end of the race, there's a crash in the last lap, NASCAR immediately throws the checkered flag, or immediately throws the yellow, and the leader at the line happens to be Jesse Love, Austin Hill's teammate. So RCR still ended up winning their 10th Super Speedway race, which is pretty incredible if you ask me. So we got through that race, we got through the ARC race, got through the truck race. One more thing about the truck race. I feel for Parker Kligerman. He ended up winning the truck race on his, one debut, and ends up getting disqualified because the rear of the truck was too low. I mean, you can't get much more bad luck. Well, okay, you can, but not in the truck series.
Now,
Kligerman has been robbed of a truck race and an Xfinity race now in the last 2 seasons at least once.
I don't remember what driver said it, but there was actually I read an article from another from one of the sports, but anyway, another driver actually. I think, damn it, I had it, and
What series was it?
He was a truck racer himself, and he said it's like ridiculous, basically. And these are not his exact words, but he basically said it's ridiculous that you get punished for coming across the line and your truck's clean, it's not damaged. And what they used to do when he was racing was actually wreck the truck into the wall or something on the cool down lap. That way they wouldn't get in trouble for it.
See, but
But
now people do that to hide stuff. So you can't.
exactly, and that's why NASCAR does what they do.
Yeah,
And
it's definitely rough.
but it passed post race inspection. Everybody says, well, look at Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson's cars years ago when they got busted with the cheater shocks. They passed post race inspection, but
Well, this came to light because I was trying to predict my winner for the Daytona 500, and it came to my attention that in 2006, Jimmy Johnson won the Daytona 500, and then was immediately they lost Shad Canals and I think it was Robbie Loomis for like 8 races because they started the season with some cheat with the messing at the templates or something.
Well, and it all. Funny. And that driver saying that about wrecking the truck on purpose on the cooldown lap just takes me back to when you had that in-car camera of Chad Canals telling Jimmy Johnson, if you win the race, you got to crack the back of the car.
Yeah. And then you got what Joey Logano last year in qualifying with his webbed gloves, which was kind of funny if you ask me. But, all right, so we got through the Xfinity race, we got through the ARC race, we got through the Cup race. We get to the Daytona 500. Now, prior to the race, they moved it up an hour because weather was supposed to be coming towards the end of the race. We made it 9 laps, and now we've got rain. Wow, magic. Like, you didn't see that coming when you announced that you were going to move the race up an hour. They got all this pre-race activities in, but ran 9 laps and went to caution. And then they ran I think they ran 11 laps. Then they ran 9 laps, 9 under caution to go back to pit road, sit on pit road under rain delay until 5:30 to then finish off the race. This race started at 2 o'clock. You essentially had a 3.5 hour rain delay after running 11 laps. Like, I don't think they even got to 3 o'clock before they stopped. They might have had a 3-hour rain delay. Like, why would they go out there?
From what I understand, they like the race to be ran either under the lights or during the day. So it started at noon or started when it gets dark.
Like, it was supposed to start at 2. They moved it up, or no. So it started at 2:30. Pre-race was supposed to start at, was it 1? Either way, they moved everything up basically a half an hour because they moved pre-race up.
Pre-race was supposed to start at 1. Pre-race was moved up to 1:30, and the green flag was moved up to 2.
Okay. So it was the opposite of what I thought it was. But so they moved everything up. So great. They got 21 laps in. Before, we essentially sat under rain delay. So we finally get this race started. Somehow William Byron had made it to the front prior to this rain delay, which is pretty impressive to me because I thought he started pretty far back in the field. So he's leading at the end of beginning of the end of the rain delay, I guess you'd call it. He was beginning when the rain delay ended. So goes out there. Now, Joey Logano has the fastest car in the field. But I forget if there was some sort of crash. I think it was some sort of crash at the end of stage 1. And, obviously you've got Castroneves has maybe 50 laps in green flag conditions in the Cup car. That eliminated that problem right there. He was almost halfway through the field, and Chastain got turned and hit the side of his own teammate, took him out. That was the end of that. So we had our first big one there. Then we go, to the end of stage 1. Joey Logano's doing fine. Stage 2 begins, and
Yeah, he
Joey
wins stage
Logano
1.
didn't go. Yeah, he won stage 1, which was good. Fastest car out there. And then all of a sudden, we go to the green flag, and Joey doesn't go. And it bunched up the field. They had a big crash going in turn 1. Actually, I believe that's when Castronever's crash was right there. But, all of a sudden, Joey's not going. He thinks he's blowing up. They come down pit road, and I think they replaced the ECU. Still not running right. Comes back down pit road. Come to find out the rag had got sucked into the car and was stuck in the throttle body. Now, this is quite impressive. It took them 80 seconds to replace that throttle body and get him back on track. Now, granted, he did go a lap down. But the fact that you took 4 bolts off, took the thing off, put it back on, and got the bolts tight and got it running correctly in 80 seconds is actually pretty impressive in my eyes, especially because these cars are pretty technical, I would think. I mean, there's a lot of technology involved. I was impressed with that.
I like when they were changing the ECU, that guy popped the window out and jumped right in the middle of the car with Joey. He's just sitting there like.
Yeah, I mean that was rather impressive how fast they got that car fixed. Now, granted, he did go a lap down, but under the caution, got his lap back, which was pretty great if you ask me. But the fastest car out there now starts at the back of the field.
Now let's hold up a second. The caution comes out for debris that nobody can find.
I think they said it was on the backstretch. And the first thing that came to mind was, what did Joey throw on track to get this caution? Because you could see the cars coming down the backstretch in the background. And Joey Logano is at the bottom corner of the camera. And magically, there's a debris caution. Where? And I think they said it was on the back.
Yeah.
Joey Logano is entering turn 3. The field is entering exit.
They can say whatever they want, but they didn't show us anything, and that is a little suspicious because they're starting to catch him and they're going to put him 2 laps down, and so therefore he needs that caution or he will not get the free pass because he'll be multiple laps down rather than just 1.
And here's the thing that I question also. Is that a Fox thing where they didn't show us? Or is that a NASCAR thing where they have a phantom caution? I don't know which one it is. Now, I'm going to refer back to Xfinity for a second. If the Xfinity Series is going to be run the same way as Fox, the CW needs to be gone and over with. They had their one-off race and be done. That is the dumbest TV provider I've seen. They look more like Fox than Fox themselves.
Fox,
and that's a sad thing.
Fox owns the CW, so
they suck either way, and I will tell a NASCAR executive that to his face.
Well, they probably suck because of the same. And I'll tell you this, man.
I'm all over the place tonight.
Yeah, so am I. But let's come back to this. Let's keep going wherever we go. But no, Logano needed this caution so he didn't go 2 laps down.
And magically got a phantom.
And as they're catching him down the straightaway, all of a sudden the caution comes out because that car wasn't up yet.
Break. What was it?
That car wasn't quite running right yet.
Yeah. Well, no, they got it fixed, but he wasn't up to speed enough to stay ahead of them before they caught him. As he had just come off pit road and was getting up to speed, but he was not fully up to speed when they would have, had they caught him, they probably would have caught him entering, I would say at least, I'm going to say probably turn 1, if not between start-finish line and turn 1 at the rate they were going. He was far enough ahead that he would have lasted to the end of that lap, but starting the next lap, he wouldn't have made it probably past turn 1. He wasn't far enough ahead for that. But I do think that was kind of an odd situation because there really was no debris, or there really was no clear debris. You couldn't really see a whole lot. And there really wasn't any debris in that area. It was all over in turn 1 and 2 where the crash was. So unless they spotted it as the cars went by, there really was no crash down the backstretch. So this debris was.
That rag getting sucked into Logano's intake. That's the whole reason that the way they have these cars just absolutely sucks.
Yes.
But anyway.
I will say later on in the race, and I spotted this, I think it was Austin Dillon under caution, actually caught a piece of hot dog wrapper.
Yeah, I saw that. They were going around. They were going around under caution, and somebody had it was stuck to the
Right
front of
under
his
their nose.
car.
Because you
Yeah,
see it fly out of the stands, and all of a sudden it just stuck to the
yeah,
car.
I saw
That
that
was
too.
really an odd one. I wasn't expecting to catch that. But we'll get back to that caution. So Joey gets his caution, gets back on the lead lap. Somehow manages to work his way through the field. Now, this is where it got really sketchy in my eyes, as we've now started stage 3. Who are the 3 cars leading the outside line? Recky Spinhouse Jr., Corey LaJoy, who somehow managed to lead a few laps during this race, which was as terrifying as it is. You got Corey LaJoy, you got Recky Spinhouse Jr., and then I believe we had Logano and Bubba. That is like the worst combo to have in front of a field, especially
Well,
with the way those cars were driving.
Hamlin was up there too.
See, and that made it even worse, is because they had all 5 of those guys within the top 10 in the front of the field. And at the very beginning of the broadcast, they said the magic number for where the big one normally happens is 5th through 25th. Well, who's 1st through 5th? All those drivers. Who's 5th through 20? Who's back of the field? Everybody else. That's like a recipe for disaster.
Hey, you got it.
5 cars are in the front, and everybody else is behind them.
You got to give it to Corey LaJoy though. He had a pretty decent run for.
I was rather surprised for how
I was surprised and I was very impressed all at once, man. With LaJoy.
Thing that through my mind was, do not be your own worst nightmare again.
Well, yeah, because you'll screw your kids out of their college fund that you dipped into.
Yeah,
according to Mike Joy, he dipped into his kid's college fund.
That was
I know, man. I would probably let him know about that if I was Corey LaJoy.
I wouldn't have said anything. I wouldn't have said anything to anybody that he dipped into his college fund. That would have been a private thing that I wouldn't tell anybody. I would tell him that I had a sponsor, invest in me, and don't tell him it's your kid. That's like that is, in my eyes, that is the level of, shady, of having a gambling issue, and
exactly
it's college fund to go gambling. I'm sorry, that is not Parent of the Year material. That is like very, very, very bad. Like I'd have a lot of eyebrows raised if I were to do something like that. That's not something I would ever want in public.
They basically just said that he had to pay for that ride. So
yeah, with his kid's college fund. Funny how that
it's
works.
Like, wow. Like that's none of anybody's business, to be honest with you. So why tell us that?
Yeah.
If that's what he did, that's what he did. I mean, I would never do something like that, but I mean, whatever. That's his business. It's not ours.
I believe it was with 15 to go, all of our anxiety and nerves finally came to a head, and I'm going to refer to this in probably the nicest way I know possible. Recky Spinhouse Jr., because that's what he is to me.
Whoever came up with that name is a genius.
It was Kyle Busch. But it's okay. We'll get to that in a second. So, Ricky decides he's going to throw a Brad block. Notice I didn't say bad block, because that is definitely a Brad Keselowski move. Joey Logano has a run. He decides he's going to go to the inside. And Ricky decides he's going to throw a Brad block. Just throws it hard left to throw the block. Now, if you listen to Joey's onboard, he had to lift not once, not twice, but 3 times in the span of trying to pass Ricky Stenhouse.
Well, hold up a second.
He finally just got pushed down into Kyle Busch, who happened to be running 4th.
back
which
up
I
there
was
though.
really hoping he'd win.
That's in my opinion. Watching that was a little bit of both of their fault
Well, I haven't
because
got that far yet.
in the initial move, Joey would not have had enough room to get that car in there either way. His whole intent of pulling that move was that Ricky would actually move up the track out of his way, and Ricky he had a dumbass attack and decided to turn left way too late.
And that's why it's called a Brad block.
And yeah,
BRAD block. That's what I'm calling that.
But Joey should have never tried putting that car there. Here's what I would have done. I told you this when we were on the phone the other day. What I would have done was push both of those guys because the leader was going back and forth to the fast line. So I would have pushed them both.
That was Ricky or LaJoy.
LaJoy
Played both lines for 20 laps.
I would have pushed them both way out front, and then I would have just made my move once I had the bottom line clear and let them two hang out to dry. That's what I would have done.
See, and here's where I question the logic.
There was enough speed there to do that.
I question the logic of Joey Logano because anybody who has seen Joey race on super speedways, if you throw a Brad block, you're getting turned. I don't know what changed in Joey over the offseason, but that was not Joey Logano making that move. It's Joey Logano. If you throw a block like that, you're getting wrecked in front of the field. And he went from not turning Ricky to trying to force his way into the side of Kyle Busch. Like, obviously, you weren't clear. You weren't even close. You were wheel to wheel with Kyle Busch. You were nowhere in front of him or behind him. You were next to him when you hit him. You'd more or less door slammed the 8 car.
Well, he got hit. He got hit from behind too, because after he lifted 3 times, they were accordioning up to his rear end, man. Like,
but he should. So, I mean, obviously, I can't say anything because I wasn't in the car. But if Joey any other time would have just punted Ricky right in the middle of the field, because honestly, I don't expect any different of Joey. He's a great driver. But with a move like that, you either have to punt somebody or get punted. And unfortunately, he was the latter of the two and got punted. And I really wish he
took out half of the field with him.
It was definitely a desperation move. I will tell you that. But at the same time, had he just moved Ricky, we might not be talking about this. I mean, that was a boneheaded move on both of them. It was still pretty boneheaded on Joey, but Ricky is essentially the next Corey LaJoy. He is his own worst nightmare because he doesn't really think.
Oh, why do you think? Why do you think Roush got rid of him a long time ago?
I mean, it's sad to say, but the dude has no common sense whatsoever when he gets behind the wheel. He's great on dirt, at least I think he is. But he's
all right
behind the wheel. He's a dumbest behind the wheel in NASCAR. I'm sorry to say it. Hayek Motorsports, JT Doherty, whatever he drives, he doesn't have a whole lot of logic when he gets behind the wheel. His head.
But he's in the same position as a lot of guys, and you won the Daytona 500 because you were lucky in the right place at the right time because of a big crash.
We'll get to that.
Not because you were good.
You just have to be in the right place.
That's how some of the guys have won the Daytona 500. Like William Byron, last year and this year winning,
quit skipping ahead.
But last year he did a great job. So, and whatever. But anyways,
the logic in that crash, and then people being mad at each other. I'm surprised Joey acted the way he did when he was interviewed after getting out of the medical center. I was a little shocked. He seemed like he was kind of out of it, which, you think Joey's a little bit more spirited after something like that. I mean, yes, I understand being rejected. You didn't win the Daytona 500. You're not crashed out. But something just didn't seem right with Joey. That's not the Joey that I'm so used to seeing. I mean, yeah, it's not short track racing, but at the same time, that something just seems off to me about that. That whole incident didn't seem like it was a normal move. But anyway, so we get through that crash and we get to the, I think it was what, coming to 2 to go, 3 to go. And lo and behold, Ricky Spinhouse gave Christopher Bell a pretty massive shot, enough to turn him to the outside wall. And this is what gets scary. And I've been
Well,
saying,
hold on though. Christopher's car wasn't taking the pushes like everybody else's cars though. So
that was a pretty massive shot he got on that last one. But
I'll give you that one too.
He gets turned to the outside wall, ends up coming back down the track, and it's the only guy in the field who doesn't seem to have any luck whatsoever. Managed to hit Ryan Preece so hard that it picks the car up in the air. And what happens when you pick one of these cars up in the air? I'm pretty sure Preece said it best himself. It's like turning into the wind with a sheet of plywood. It just takes off like an airplane. He now holds the record for the longest wheelie at Daytona International Speedway, and that is not a good record to hold. And hopefully NASCAR is listening to this. One of these days, you guys are going to get somebody killed
again
using these airplane wing cars because you're too silly to think about.
I'm telling you,
yes, use a sheet of metal or put some Swiss cheese holes in it. Put some holes in it.
There are some things when it comes to past drivers' deaths that I blame on NASCAR. Adam Petty, for one. That gate at the track it should have been changed years ago, and that should have never happened. Dale Earnhardt. They didn't
Smith crash at the duels.
They didn't change the rules and mandate the safety equipment they did because they pretty much knew that Dale Earnhardt was going to do what he wanted, but they should have said, no, this is how it's going to be, and if you don't like it, you don't race, because we're worried about safety. And look, it took him dying to change these rules and get things mandated.
And I'm going to say this as nicely as I can, but unless we're trying to have another Ryan Newman 2020 Daytona 500, NASCAR needs to get their heads out of their asses and look at this. We now have had, Ryan Newman had the rollover at the front grass in 2003. We had the Carl Edwards and Brad Keselowski crash at Talladega, where that rear wing, I'm going to call it a wing because it definitely wasn't.
That's what it was. It was a wing.
Picked the rear of that car up and went across Newman's nose. Sure enough, that same year, that fall, Ryan Newman's car essentially did the reverse Ryan Preece. Rear end of the car, caught the wind, picked it up, flipped it over.
Now, hold up. I have the clips from this wreck. So I say we show them and show the people what happened here.
Well, before you do that one, I would like to address the other ones Ryan Preece has had. Ryan Preece, we're just keeping track of all his crashes. He had that vicious crash at Kansas in the 37 car, where he hit that wall so hard all four wheels came off the ground. What was it, 2 years ago? Ryan Preece had the horrible T-bone accident with Kyle Larson at Talladega. I believe it was that same year at Daytona. Ryan Preece essentially pulled a Elliott Sadler at Daytona going down the backstretch. Car caught air, flipped over. Now, and I will note this before we show this clip, the roof flaps did not deploy until he had come to a complete stop.
Well, the side
engineering issue.
One of them did start coming up a little bit as the car was up in the air at an angle, but it didn't come up all the way.
That's like having a car like this versus this.
But if I recall, I think Corey LaJoie was actually one of, if not the first guy to really catch air with this car because of what we blame it on, because of the bottom of it. If I recall that correctly, because he was sliding sideways and the whole car just lifted up and whoop.
They had 2 weeks in a row they did that. Corey LaJoy had it, and then Ryan Preece had it the very next week. Michigan
But
and then Daytona.
I
So
will pull up these clips and we'll show the
we'll let our viewers
audience.
decide.
We'll show the audience exactly what we're talking about here. So now you could talk.
A devastating crash for Ryan Preece. An incredible camera work by our Fox crew.
I'm so glad to see that window net down and him be able to get out of that thing. Whew, that's scary.
It's unbelievable what it looks like when these cars get caught by the air like that. And I'm with you, Clint. I've never seen one take off with a wheelie like that. But they just flip around like they don't weigh 3,600 pounds.
Well, nothing weighs that much at 186 miles an hour.
Saw the airbox just blow away. The right front tucked up underneath the A-post there.
Car did its job, though.
And he walked away.
So many safety enhancements in these race cars.
So that will likely send us to overtime. It happens on lap 196.
Who's left?
Unbelievable.
We saw the side of that car face the wind, and the roof flaps had not yet come up, and that creates that pressure differential between air over the car and under the car that sends it tumbling.
Well, just like we said, though, I've never seen a car wheelie like that. The roof flaps won't work.
Yep.
Whew. I've been there. That's a bad feeling. See how quiet it got?
You see him tuck his head right there.
I mean, that is absolutely insane.
Yes, and and I was gonna try to pause it in the middle of the video. I didn't know if it would let me. But if you watch when that car picked up, it literally went from about 100 yards out from the corner to a wheelie the entire way to the corner, and then it picked up. Then it actually rolled over. If you're watching the onboard, it's like he's watching the window in the bottom of the car because he just keeps his head down. Because what are you supposed to see? You're going to see the stars, and then you're going to see the car roll over. They need, if they're going to keep this flat bottom car, put a window right by my feet so I can see the ground before I end up dying. Like, this is, what are we, Monster Jam? Come on, NASCAR, get your heads out of your asses. I'm sorry, I'm adamant about this, and I'm sorry if we get moderated for this, but that has to be the dumbest thing NASCAR has ever done.
No,
either that or take these cars, put a hole saw, and cut a bunch of holes in the bottom of this thing.
Now,
at least air heat into the car.
I'm going to play the clip from Eric Jones, which was right there. And
this is from Eric Jones. Oh. This is from Eric Jones.
I mean, that is absolutely crazy.
And if you watch, if you could play that clip one more time.
This is from Eric Jones. Oh.
cars roll over in 2003, like in the early 2000s. 2010 on had just as many flips as it does now.
Okay, so I'm going to go back and point something out here. And I don't know if you can hear me while I'm talking, while the video's
I can hear
playing.
you. Could they hear
But
me?
you'd have to ask the audience if they can hear you while the video was on. Obviously I can, but we're in the studio. So, but I'm going to go back.
This is from Eric Jones. Oh. Oh.
So when the belly pan gets broken off right underneath of the number 60, after that car flips over, then that's when it starts going back to the ground. And that, in my opinion, is because all the air coming in to where that broken piece of the belly pan is. So NASCAR needs to do something with the bottom of these cars. We have been saying this. We were one of the first ones to say this. And now every other podcaster I know that talks about NASCAR is saying this. Now, we were one of the first ones to say it. This, at least on super speedways, get rid of the underpan of the car, get rid of the diffuser, get rid of the belly pan, get rid of the splitter, get rid of this crap that you put in this car to try to make it more appealing to whatever the hell you're trying to make it appealing to.
While you're at it, get rid of the single lug wheels.
And at this point, when it comes to safety, I don't give a crap about the single lug wheels. We need to stop this. And I'm going to tell you this. I sent you and I'm voicing my opinion now. I sent you that clip the other day and told you to watch this jackass on his podcast, and you could go back and watch it. And this guy is literally sitting here. It seems like he's blaming the drivers. Oh, these cars are flipping over. Every time there's a flip, Ryan Preece seems to be the one in. And dude, it's just bad luck. But there's no reason that these cars need to flip like this. He's saying, let's take the restrictor plates out. Let's do this, let's do that, and get the cars broke apart. No, that's not what everybody wants in speedway racing as fans. They don't want to see the cars all spread apart. If they're going to do that, we might as well go back to the two-car tandem draft.
I was going to say, yeah, that doesn't do any good. I actually kind of, and this kind of goes against what I'm used to with super speedways, but the 3 wide, 10 rows deep, I think Out of the Groove made this point. That is really great for new fans. And even fans like me, seeing that many cars that wide, that deep, it's pretty cool. I won't lie. I actually enjoyed watching them be that close together, that deep. Thought that was great. But yeah, 2-car tandem, yeah, it'd be further apart, but it's no fun. One guy could push somebody all the way out and then just, Talladega Nights, shake and bake, slingshot.
Well, nobody wants to see a guy 5 seconds ahead in a super speedway race. Nobody wants to see that. That's boring. And this jackass literally was saying, we need to go back to the racing of the 90s, or this, that, and the other. Dude, you were not even around in the 90s to see that kind of racing, buddy. I was. And I'm going to tell you, that was some of the best racing ever. And it was pack racing. So you have no idea what you're talking about, buddy. And I sent you a message to watch this show because I told you I was going to call you out. I won't say your name, and I'll let the people figure it out themselves. But I'm going to tell you what, buddy, you have no idea what you're talking about when it comes to NASCAR racing in the 90s because you weren't even around. I was. So Don't sit here and say you're comparing apples to oranges, dude. You know, we're not going back to that car. It ain't going to happen. Okay, so we need to try to get NASCAR to change what the heck they do have. Okay, and the belly pan or some kind of flaps underneath of it, like roof flaps, but on the bottom of the car, something. And another thing to get rid of, in my opinion, is that stupid side window. That needs to go. Because that all that does is help the air go over or under the car when it gets sideways. And the air needs to go into the car when it gets sideways to help hold it down.
And I'm not sure the engineering part of the window. I feel like if the window were to come out when we're in situations like that, I feel like it'd be okay. If it blew out of the car when something like that happened, I feel like that'd be okay. But if anybody goes back and watches, it doesn't come out. They're so stuck in the car that even when the car does get sideways, it doesn't blow out. It doesn't cave in.
No, the only time it comes out is when the car lands on its roof, and then it pops out.
What it needs to do is when there's some sort of pressure change, either when it's blowing with the right hand side towards the wind, it needs to blow into the car, or somehow become unattached and blow out. Whether that's crush into the car where it kind of flexes in, because we've got all that roll cage. Why can't it crush in and rattle off the cage to the driver's side? Like there's some sort of separation. I know there is.
All you have to do is put a tether on it.
Yeah, put a tether on it. When it crushes in, it's still inside the car. It won't hit the driver. Tether so where it either drops down in or blows up into the car to release. Let the pressure
put it
out of the car.
Put it on a hinge system like the roof flaps.
Kind of like that, yes. And if it's the driver's side facing the wind, it'll blow out of the car. I wouldn't even say a hinge system. If we just tethered it in and let it blow out, like say it, if it's blowing through the driver's side, it'll blow out and just flap in the wind, which is fine with me. It's not holding air in. If it's facing the passenger side, blows into the car, but it's still tethered inside the car. So put the tether inside and let it either blow out behind the car or blow into the car, and it just kind of drops down in. So
or just get rid of it. You ain't got to worry about it.
Well, to an extent, I understand why it's there, but it not releasing is the biggest problem, I think, because it is an arrow.
Here's a better solution. Get rid of the damn thing, and then give the cars the horsepower back that they had a long time ago. That's the only reason that they put the damn thing there in the first place, was because they took horsepower away from these cars, so they had to find a way to get them back up to speed.
I mean, you're not wrong with that either. But
this car sucks.
And I've been saying that since what? Kurt Busch's accident, 2023, I believe it was. Or maybe it was 2022. I don't remember now.
You just get rid of the stupid underbody of this car, and that'll be a significant help.
See, funny enough, this is supposed to be a cost-cutting car, but yet it costs $40 million for a charter to even drive the thing.
It's going to cost somebody their life. So you can't put a price on life, and this car needs to go because it's going to cost somebody or multiple people their lives. And it is starting to piss me off, to be honest with you, and I'm about sick of it already. I'm about sick of watching NASCAR again.
Yep, it is getting frustrating. As a NASCAR fan, it is very frustrating. Seeing what we're seeing today, all this, fights over a contract, and I still haven't heard the end of this thing yet. It's funny it hasn't come back into the headlines, but funny enough, one of the things I didn't expect to be in the headlines, this is completely off topic from the Daytona 500. Dodge is coming back to the Truck Series. I honestly think that'll be kind of cool. That's completely off topic, but I did see.
When did you see that? I didn't see that yet.
That on, I believe it was Break Hard, posted something about that, which honestly I think that's kind of cool. They haven't come back for the Xfinity and Cup Series yet.
Well, what the hell are they going to bring to that series? They ain't got nothing left.
The Ram. They got the Ram.
No, I'm talking about the Xfinity and Cup. What would they bring back? They don't have nothing to bring back.
They'll bring back a car with audio system for the exhaust.
The little Dodge Dart.
I mean, I don't even know if Dodge makes anything gas powered anymore that's powerful. I mean, to be honest, the Dart doesn't sound like a bad option because at least it's something. But there's no Chargers, there's no Challengers. They're all electric and gone. There really isn't much good there. It is
I
very.
did I did see that Chevy plans to keep the Camaro in NASCAR, so that means they must plan on keeping it in production somehow.
And I'm not sure how. Well, I don't know if they're going to do the Camaro. If you go back and look at the Ryan Preece onboard, those cars don't say Camaro; they say Chevy, and I don't know.
I know. I was just reading an article about that earlier, though, about
Oh, yeah,
NASCAR, or I mean, Chevrolet plans to keep the Camaro in NASCAR and to actually make changes to it. So the only way they can make changes to it is if they're actually having a production car.
well, I'll tell you right now, if they keep this Camaro and it looks anything like that prototype they had at Daytona, I won't be watching NASCAR very soon because they had a prototype of the new NASCAR EV. And I'll tell you right now, if Chevy makes that, because I believe it was a Chevy car, if they make that the new Camaro, they've now ruined muscle cars just like the Mustang because now we have the Mach E. Oh, good Lord. It makes me sick thinking about it. And if we get the Chevy or the Camaro E, we're ruining cars as we go. And I really don't like this EV at all. It's stupid. It needs to be. NASCAR talked about their expansion.
Excuse me.
Send that EV over to Brazil and have them race those because we don't need that in NASCAR. This whole international expansion, yeah, that'll be international expansion. Send that to Brazil to go race with the Formula One cars because it isn't needed or welcome in my eyes.
Speaking of prototypes, and this is way off topic, but on my way home from work yesterday, once I got into my hometown on the highway, I actually saw one of those prototype cars that's all camouflaged up,
Oh, that's kind
where
of
they got that goofy looking wrap around it. So I actually saw one of those, and it actually looked like it. I mean, it didn't have any kind of markings on it whatsoever for a brand or anything, but it actually looked like the electric Chevy Blazer they were using at Daytona to pace the field.
And I won't lie, that one was kind of cool. 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds. That has to be the fastest. They said that's the fastest ZR1 they've ever had. I think is what it was.
SS.
Oh, the SS. Okay, that's what it was. Still, that's pretty fast. I was kind of surprised by that, but I'm waiting to see what happens. I will say if NASCAR goes EV, that'll be the end of me on this show because I won't have anything nice to say or any content to give. But we'll go back to post Ryan Preece accident. He was released from the infield care center. Says the first thing he thought of when he went in the air was his daughter.
Well, I have that clip too.
I would have had the same thoughts. I mean, the next thoughts probably would have been, hey, where's that window they're supposed to put the bottom of my car to watch where the ground is?
So here.
But anyway, so we get.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the diffuser or what that makes these cars like a sheet of plywood when you walk out on a windy day. But, when the car took off like that and I got real quiet, all I thought about was my daughter. So I'm lucky to walk away. Yeah, I don't know if it's the diffuser or what that makes these cars like a sheet of plywood when you walk out on a windy day. But, when the car took off like that and I got real quiet, all I thought about was my daughter.
So when a driver is telling you that, NASCAR, you need to listen.
Yep.
100%. And that's all that needs to even be said to NASCAR. When a driver is telling you that, it's time to start listening. And it's time to start looking into this problem. Plain and simple.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I speak for a lot of NASCAR fans. We don't need to go live through another Dale Sr. We'd like to see our drivers be safe. And I guarantee if you think you're growing fans now, you end up killing one of your drivers on national television, like you almost did with Ryan Newman, you're going to lose a lot more fans than I think you're prepared for because you made all these safety improvements.
For what?
Exactly. But I'm getting off my soapbox with that one. I want to end up finishing out the race.
Well, they were going in the right direction when they had the Gen 6 car, and when they made this car with a stiff chassis and the stiff body, they completely screwed up, and they will not admit it.
And don't forget
Plain
they
and
have air
simple.
jacks now. Don't forget they have air jacks, which like a
Yeah.
NASCAR needs an air jack.
Kyle Busch had something to say about that, but I didn't get that clip.
Essentially, he had 4 flat tires. They towed him back, and
Well, he was.
took the car, the diffuser off, so it couldn't really do much.
Well, I saw an interview with him, and it must have been more of a private journalist or something. But he basically said the guy that's supposed to come out of the truck with the air bottle or whatever to engage those jacks, the damn bottle was empty. Like, come on. And to get on to another topic, the Fox Broadcasting.
On the truck. They got to get a compressor on those.
The Fox Broadcasting, they did a nice job of actually. The cameraman did a nice job, but I'm going to tell you, the Fox network completely sucked ass. I'm telling you. I don't know how much. I think I watched 90% of the race in a damn side-by-side. And I'm going to tell you what, that gets absolutely boring. Yes, I'm glad that they didn't go any full-screen commercials during the race. They only did that when it was under yellow. But still, I miss the days where they would actually show us the pit stops and all that good stuff. They used to do a superior job, and they are just falling off big time. And then there towards the end, I think it was like 60 laps to go, Mike Joy actually said, we're going to go from here to the finish nonstop with no commercial breaks or something. I don't remember exactly how he said it, but that's what he said. That they weren't going to take any more commercial breaks. And then not even 5 laps later, there's the damn commercial, another side-by-side. It has seemed like after that, it was every 5 laps, they would take a side-by-side. They would come back 5 laps later, they would go side-by-side, then go full screen, 5 more laps, go side-by-side. We get sick of that, and that's going to push people away.
Yep. It's definitely
we understand that you have to acknowledge the people that help you pay for your network and that pay for those ads. We understand that. But every 5, it's not like every single ad was different. 90% of the time, it was all repeat ads anyway.
Well, they played the same IndyCar on Fox ad 3 times for each driver. They have 3 drivers. They played 9 IndyCar on Fox commercials during that race. They showed Pato O'Ward and what was it? Not Castroneves.
Newgarden.
They showed Newgarden. They showed Pato O'Ward. They showed Alex Palou. The same 3 drivers the entire race. They essentially unloaded their next big event because the Super Bowl's over, the the Daytona 500 is over. Now we're going to show Indy. I guarantee any amount of money that they're going to put, Chris Myers in the pre-race box for the Indy 500 because Lord knows he can't do anything in NASCAR. He hasn't done anything for years. He's more hair gel than actually an announcer.
Well, to be honest with you, I'm not really looking forward to NBC either because I'm sorry, but I can't stand Lee Diffie. Like, the guy should be announcing Australian supercars.
He was better in IndyCar. I will give him that. He did give a little bit, and I'm not going to go full on Lee Diffie. He gave a little bit of a difference in announcing. I'm not saying I like him a lot, but it gave us a different view of what we could have, or what the options were. Not the
And the
greatest,
other,
I'll give you that. He really wasn't the best, but at the same time, he wasn't the worst announcer we have. He's definitely not Clint Boyer, I'll tell you that. Because Clint Boyer sucks.
oh, I'm going to tell
sorry,
you
but he
this. I
does.
was getting ready to say that about Clint Boyer. I'm going to tell you, this guy talks like he knows what this car is all about. You
Has he
know, and
driven that
I
kind of car?
wasn't talking about the crashing and stuff, but he just, when they're talking about the race and this car, and he talks like he knows what the hell this car is all about. He doesn't know a damn thing about this car. He never drove one. Kevin Harvick did. He drove one for 2 years, so he knows.
And I'm going to go back and I'm going to kind of flash back to the Ricky Stenhouse thing. When Ricky Stenhouse won the race, what were the only words that Clint Boyer was able to utter during the end of that race? Oh, we got a wreck. You're not Darrell Waltrip. Shut up. Give us something. But if you don't have anything good to say, just keep your mouth shut. Let the other two people actually do something. Because Clint Boyer is more or less there just for the paycheck. He really doesn't give anything good. He's entertaining pre-race. He'd be better
So
on the Hollywood Hotel.
Yeah, he would have been better on like NASCAR Race Hub or something, but
He's good on Race Hub. He honestly, they need to put him with Chris Myers because that's the only thing that would really make the Hollywood Hotel entertaining. Because,
but play-by-play is not Clint Boyer. I'm sorry.
by any means, no. He really doesn't have any idea what he's talking about.
No.
I really want them to change it, but Lord knows they won't.
I do like Mike Joy. I've always liked Mike Joy. He's been doing it for 40 years or more.
I think Mike Joy is probably the only reason that booth is any good.
I like
I'll
Kevin
give
Harvick.
A little credit. I'll give Harvick credit, but Mike Joy is the only thing keeping that thing together.
Well, and this is only Harvick's second year, so but at least when Harvick talks, he knows what he's talking about.
Yes.
He's just got to learn how to engage it a little better. So, other than that, though, man, Clint Boyer's got to go. I'm sorry, but
you're not wrong.
And one of us could go up there. We'll put you up there, man. You'll get excited.
I feel like I could be the next Darrell Waltrip, but I don't want to say that because I really don't think nobody.
You wouldn't be able to hold. You wouldn't be able to hold back from the nicknames like Ricky Spinhouse and.
I don't know. I'd probably rattle off Hacklin a few times before I think it's worth it because really there wasn't much there. But I do need to finish the Daytona 500 because I was.
Hey, wait a minute. Speaking of Denny, he didn't get his fourth one.
He hasn't even got his first win or first championship yet. So what's the difference? It's one race.
Anyway,
that's like winning the Indy 500 or the Daytona 500. You win one race. That's not a championship. And I made the comment earlier to somebody. So what? I won a go-kart race. A blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. You win one race. That doesn't mean you won a championship. You just won one 200-lap race.
I was always like Mark Martin, man. I always finished second in that dang championship, dude.
I really wish there was a way for people to understand. You can get lucky how many different times in the same race. One race does not tell you how your championship went. You could win one race and be absolute garbage the rest of the year. Look at Ricky Spinhouse Jr. Won the Daytona 500. Couldn't do absolute crap the rest of that season. Michael McDowell won the 2021 Daytona 500. Was great for what I would have thought he was. So Michael McDowell is not a great example. Ricky Spinhouse is garbage after he wins that race. Couldn't do crap all year. All these people that are winning one-off races. Trevor Bayne, youngest Daytona 500 winner ever, won one race. And that was it.
That was the only thing he ever won. Derek Cope.
Harrison Burton won the Wood Brothers 100th victory. Hasn't been able to do crap up till that point. A blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. So what? You won multiple Daytona 500. Your championships are non-existent because it doesn't happen. You win one race. Anybody can get lucky multiple times. It's a game of chance, just like super speedways. It happens. But is there anything else you could add before I want to try to finish the rest of this race because there was a little bit of excitement here and there.
Go for it.
All right, so we finally get Priest's crash cleaned up, and we're coming back to the overtime. Now we had what? The 12 car, the 2 car, the 11, the 47. I'm trying to think who else was up there. 41 somehow, Cole Custer out of nowhere just appears at the front of this field. I mean, out of all the cars, I was surprised that one was there.
Didn't Spinhouse have to go to the back?
I don't remember if he did or not. I'm pretty sure he's the one who turned the 41. I don't remember though. I have to go back and look at that. But either way, so we roll off going down the backstretch, and Cole Custer, I will say, had a monster run. He managed to get alongside the 2, the 12, and the 11 on the outside, and then just I don't know, I forget who it was. Somebody got in. I think it was not Priest. It was Briscoe. Got into the 41, turned him into the 11, which then turned him into the 2 and the 12. They're all wrecked in the outside wall. Somehow, by Lord knows what, William Byron goes from 7th to 1st, with Tyler Reddick following him right through. They went from 7th and 8th to 1st and 2nd coming to the line. William Byron won his 2nd straight Daytona 500. You should have seen me jump off the couch. I'm a huge William Byron fan. I didn't see that one coming. I thought he was too far back to do anything. And somehow, it shocks me that he didn't get damaged from the Priest accident. Because if you go back and watch the Priest onboard, he clipped Byron. When Bell came back across, he clipped Byron. It actually turned his car sideways when he hit Byron and then hit Priest. I'm shocked that it didn't do more damage to that car. Now, and I can't comment on the controversy part of this because I didn't see it. But supposedly there's reports that William Byron hit the outside wall during his burnout to damage the car. I didn't see it, so
they didn't really show the burnout.
Supposedly there was reports that William Byron hit. There was a few other people that reported it, that he hit the wall during his burnout that he clearly could have avoided. I didn't really see it. I'll have to go back and look for it, but I never saw him hit the wall. So this is news to me, but supposedly he hit the wall so they couldn't protect the car like you were saying earlier. I didn't see it, so I don't know anything about it, but I know that the right side probably had a little bit of damage from when Bell hit him on the way to hit Priest. I'm almost positive there has to be damage there of some sort. Supposedly, he hit the left front. I didn't see him turn left or turn right at all to hit the left front, so that's news to me. But there were definitely comments made post-race by Jeff Gordon and William Byron about the Joey Logano move, and I do feel like they were warranted. It was a boneheaded move on Joey's part, but at the same time, I still don't think it was all Joey. I feel like there's a little bit on Spinhouse's doing.
Now, here's my take on the finish of that race.
And I was about to get to. Go ahead.
Not the fact of, where people finished at, but how NASCAR let it run out to the green or run out to the line and kept it green. When they didn't do that, I give them credit for listening to their fans who were upset about how the duel went and how the truck race went and whatever.
I mean, they screwed Eric Jones in the duels.
But if you're gonna do it one way for one of them, you got to do it the same way for all of them. And they completely botched that up. And they have people fuming right now. I mean, people are pissed. So they
Like-
need consistency in their calls,
Exactly.
and they're not giving that to the people.
NASCAR officiating is more inconsistent than the NFL umps or refs. And that's a sad thought because, there's more favoritism in the NFL than NASCAR, but we don't know much difference about that anymore because they're all pretty shady and there's no consistency whatsoever.
It's definitely become, unfortunately, it's getting more and more to become about the entertainment factor rather than the racing itself, and it's kind of
That's why we have
sad.
41 entries now.
So and now we're back to 41 cars. Just add 2 more and take it back to 43 and be done with it.
Or heck, how about every world class racer that applies? We could have a 60-car field if that's the case. They don't
Yeah.
want the money, but at least they get to be out there and show their talents.
Hey, next thing, I say we just let James McFadden run a fucking run NASCAR. Hell with it.
Let James McFadden run NASCAR. We could essentially have another IMSA. We could have all the world-class drivers drive the EV cars on the same track as the company cars all at once. Let's just make this a big old IMSA, circle race.
That's all I got for tonight, man. So
That's about all I got for tonight. We're on to Atlanta this week. Another super speedway. We'll see if NASCAR's consistency screws up at all. We'll see if anybody takes flight to Atlanta.
and I believe the World of Outlaws sprint cars are back at Volusia this weekend, so we will have some coverage of that next week, and I'm looking forward to that. So
I'm looking forward to some of this racing. I'm thankful the season is back. We definitely started the season off with a bang. We'll say that this is the
literally.
first year I've been home for the Daytona 500, and I won't lie. I don't think it disappointed, but at the same time, it's still just as frustrating as when I left. So, but anyway, I think it's about time we wrap it up for the night.
Yeah, we're gonna call it there, and we'll get out of here and get back to
voice after all this. So
get back to normal life.
Oh yeah. Well, with Switching Grooves, I'm Nathan Johns,
and I'm Russ Fritz saying race hard,
stay safe,
and we'll see you there. Good night, everyone.
bye everybody.